All right, well, friendship, ballet, and professional discovery are the themes of a new novel for middle schoolers set in Seattle. Lauren in the Limelight centers on 3 young dancers who auditioned for the Pacific Northwest Ballet. We are pleased to be joined today by Seattle author and PNB faculty member Miriam Landis. Thank you for being here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, and thank you for writing this book that is going to share a piece of our world in the Pacific Northwest and something we're very proud of, the ballet here, with the rest of the world. I'm so excited. So I mentioned what you do now, but you've worn a lot of hats in your career. Tell me about your background.
Okay, so I grew up in Salt Lake City, so my early dance training was with Ballet West. And then when I was 16, I went to the School of American Ballet in New York City. For 2 years, I wanted to be in the New York City Ballet, and then I wasn't tall enough.
Oh.
And so Edward Villela offered me a job, and I went to dance with Miami City Ballet in Florida for 4 years. And then there was kind of a gap away from dance where I went to Stanford, and then I worked in book publishing in publishing houses in New York, and then actually came to Seattle for a job on the Amazon Books team. Wow. And then life got in the way. I got married. I had 4 kids, and during that time I went back to teaching dance. And so I've now been on the faculty at PNB for almost 13 years.
Okay, when is your book coming out about your life story?
Oh gosh,
that's so fascinating.
Thank you.
You obviously then draw from your experience as a dancer and think so much more in this book, Lauren in the Limelight, right?
I do, yes. I'm also a mom of 4 kids. I have 11-year-old twins and a 6 and an 8-year-old.
Who is this dancing here?
Well, that would be me.
That's you.
That would be me in my grandmother's house when I was probably 3 or something.
Oh my goodness.
That one's a little bit older. But yeah, so my younger kids are 6 and 8 and then 11.
Oh, wow.
My twins are 11 and they're in the Nutcracker this year.
Are they really?
They are. And everybody goes to PNB, so we're kind of like the Von Trapp family dance family right now. It's a little silly.
That is adorable, and I love that.
Gosh, thank you.
How cool. So the main characters are 6th graders.
They are.
Which is such a formative time. It really is such a formative time.
Yeah.
What made you want to write about tweens? Because, I mean, most of us are trying to with the tweens.
Right. Well, you know, when I was younger, before I went to New York, the way that I really learned about the dance world and felt connected with it was through reading. I'm a huge reader. Yeah. Obviously, I worked in book publishing, I write, and there's a huge gap in the literature for dancers. There's adult memoirs of famous dancers, there's nonfiction, or you find younger children's books with illustrations. But the time where kids really become passionate about dance is between, I would say, 11 and 18, where they are looking to start a professional career.
Right.
And there are very, very few books in that age range and genre. There's very little on the shelf.
That is really fascinating that you identified that.
And not only in books and films, if what you see in films is usually sort of salacious or it's, you know, it just doesn't reflect the experience that I had. And when I left my professional career, I really felt like, oh my gosh, I would like to write something for my younger self.
That is really neat. So you're really giving us an inside look at what it is like. Because I understand, I mean, there are kids in 6th grade now going to New York, right? That when you start dancing that on that level, this happens. So you're giving us a real look inside of what it's like.
Well, and the book, it chronicles the 6th grade year where kids are about 12 is around the time that they go on point. So this chronicles the year that these 3 local kids get their point shoes, which for people who don't know, you train and train for many years so that you can, you know, your teacher decides that you're strong enough, and getting those point shoes is a rite of passage. It's a little like, you know, a bat mitzvah.
It is.
Right, for kids who in dance. So it's a big deal that year.
It's a big deal. I remember when my friends moved to that point, and it's not to make a joke on point, but it is a big deal for these people. So in the book, Lauren and her friends are auditioning. They are auditioning for the Pacific Northwest Ballet, which is where you teach dance.
It is.
Did any of your students inspire you to be characters in this book?
You know, I've had so many students over the years that each of those kids really reflects sort of a much larger theme. Obviously, my experience watching my kids, watching many of my students inspire them. but each one of the kids kind of represents a lesson, or there's something each character in the book needs to learn, and that's sort of an ongoing theme with many dance students for each of them. So I wouldn't pin them down to one particular student.
Speaking of characters, let's talk about the character of Brian and why you included him.
Okay, so Brian is a really special character to me, also the one I was the most afraid to write, because there's a lot of criticism today for authors who are writing characters that are not like themselves.
That's a very good point, yes.
So Brian is a black boy who wants to dance in pointe shoes.
Okay.
And it was really important to me to get this character right. It was also really important to me to include him, even though obviously I'm a white middle-aged woman.
Yeah.
But this is a theme. At P&B we actually have some dancers in the company who are now dancing on pointe that are non-binary. Brian is not non-binary, but he's also 12. This wasn't necessarily inspired by any of those dancers, but one of the big themes in the book is that you can be who you are inside, and you don't have to be who the outside world decides you are.
Yes.
And P&B has really been a leader in that, in allowing our dancers to just be true to their art and who they are and expressing themselves. And so that's the character of Brian really represents that.
Well, I thank you for sharing that. It's so important that you were incredibly thoughtful about when writing that character, and I cannot wait to read more into the book, and I'm so excited for other kids to read this. Something very thoughtful, exciting, and fun. It has been a pleasure talking to you. I cannot wait to see what's next. Maybe Lauren in the Limelight too.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Okay, great to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right.